All right, we're going to get started.
Oh, vegetable, right.
I will call to order the City of Milton Common Council meeting this Wednesday, March 18th at 6 p.m. Can I get confirmation of appropriate meeting notice?
Meeting notice was posted at Milton City Hall, Milton Piggly Wiggly, and Hometown Ace Hardware.
Thank you. Approval of agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Motion carries. Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number 4, public comments regarding items which can be affected by council action. Is there anyone signed in?
There is no one signed in at this time.
Chief, if you'd like to take this opportunity to give us a report, please.
And I always appreciate the courtesy. I mean, I really do. Activity, we're going to stop saying it's, really, really busy because that apparently is just the norm. And we're okay with that. We're doing really, really well. I know I talked a couple of meetings ago when I was here. City of Milton's response times are creeping up. And I think it is very much a direct reflection of the growth that you have going on to the east and just the distance away from the current building. We've got a plan in place, obviously, with the additional station. So I don't think that is anything to be terribly worried about, other than we just want to make sure we're providing the quickest service we can. February was really kind of weird. It's a short month. Call volumes were a little bit down from what you'd normally expect, except you'll notice the simultaneous calls, that's a record. 31 times during the month, we had multiple calls going on within one jurisdiction. So again, that is just something we watch to make sure that, it's not getting out of whack. On the backside, finances are doing really well. I know there's not a lot of people on the council that remember this, but I'll try to point out the two numbers that are circled there, the 674 and the 677. When we integrated the two departments together, there was a pretty substantial, I'll just say, record documentation issue that was causing a lot of EMS billing to be denied by the insurance companies because the report quality was a little lacking. So that number started out in the 300s when we integrated the two entities together. I am extremely proud of the staff. We said it'd take 2 or 3 years, maybe Ryan might be the only one left that remembers those discussions. It would take 2 or 3 years to just get all that cleaned up and get everybody trained and get it up where it needs to be. They have done a phenomenal job, right? So we're about $3 difference between East and West. So very, very proud of the staff for what they've done. Couple of really big incidents that happened in February. Barn fire's a barn fire, so I'll kind of skip over that one. But we did have 2 ice rescues. One was on Rice Lake, which is right next to Silverwood Park, if you're familiar where that is, off of 106. And then the other one was actually on Storrs Lake here. Both of them were double rescues. There were 2 individuals involved in both of them. The first one, and the PSA announcement I've been making at all the meetings I talk at, if you're going to go out ice fishing, which thank heavens we're probably past that for this year, right? Make sure your cell phone is in a waterproof container. The kind of thing that you can get, right? What happened to the gentlemen, they were about 1.1 miles away from the road. So they would have been yelling for as long as they could yell, and nobody would have heard them. They were just very, very isolated where they were. When they went through the ice, the one gentleman had his cell phone with him. It would not dial 911. Just phone was damaged enough, or his fingers were cold enough at that point in time, he could not get it to dial 911. What saved him is that he hit the redial button and it literally called the last person he had talked to 5 hours before that. And thank heavens they answered. So that person then was the one who called 911, a whole sequence that goes on. The biggest challenge was it was that person's phone that was coming into 911, so they couldn't ping it and figure out latitude and longitude. So, right, we had this 1.125 mile long lake trying to find two guys that were through the ice, and took a little longer than we wanted, but they're both doing okay. We've stayed in touch with them several times, and they're doing okay. So that was that one. Storrs Lake, couple of very nice young men, and one of their dads would probably tell you he told them not to do what they did. It's never happened to any of us in our teenage years. But the good news is they were on an ice floe, and it was an ice floe going out away from shore. So we had to go out, get them off the ice floe, bring them back, and both of them were okay. Kind of the biggest thing. I mean, I'll take any questions you might have or anything. I know it's been a couple of months since I've been here, so if there's anything that anybody had pending. Otherwise, thank you very much.
I don't have a
Oh,
question, but
I should comment, we did just have a 16-hour hazmat incident, and if you saw that out on the interstate. The good news is it was not in any Milton territory. Very, very tenuous, because the chemical that was in the tanker was extremely flammable. And so unbelievable coordination between State Patrol, hazmat, fire, and Dewey's wrecker. Dewey's brought up 3 of their big rotator wreckers. This was about 78,000 pounds that was tipped over in a ditch that we had to figure out how to get uprighted and not have it do anything that we didn't want it to do. So very, very good effort between everybody involved. Thank you very much. Oh,
I just had a quick comment for the chief.
Yeah.
Just want to give a shout out to the department. We've had a lot of successes in sports teams throughout the year, and ad hoc, shoot from the hip, last minute parades and support onto that. They've always been welcoming, and that just happened this last Sunday. So just want you to know, it's very, very grateful to the families and the
I
kids.
appreciate that, and I've got to include the chief in that as well. Those are fun calls to get at 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night, and we will do whatever we can to always adapt. So appreciate the compliment. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Number 5, approval of the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Number 6, discussion and possible action regarding request for business parking only signs.
Jessica Mann has requested business parking only signs to be installed along College Street in the city. Just an overview of parking in the downtown area. There are 7 stalls on College Street in the 600 block from Parkview Drive to 644 College Street. 1 of the 5 is designated handicap, and 2 of the others are parallel locations. Those are all on the north side of the roadway. On the south, there are 5 additional parallel spots, and all 5 are assigned business-only parking spots. There are also 2 more parallel spots nearby. On Parkview, there are no business-only parking signs posted, so there are none. On Parkview Drive to the south of College Street, there are 5 business-only parking spots in front of 311, 315, and 319 Parkview. On Greenman Street, there are an additional 5 signed business-only parking spots on the south side of the street. Also nearby is a signed municipal parking lot between College Street and Greenman Street that accommodates 8 vehicles. As far as fiscal impact for the city, it would be monetary for labor and additional signage costs for the 5 signs. The city staff recommends keeping the parking as is, noting there are nearby parking spots, that there are already signed business parking only spots on the same block, and that there are residents located above these businesses. One other item to consider is that it is extremely difficult to enforce these signs.
All right, thank you.
We'll say we've had business, only sign requests come up periodically over the last decade or so, and probably before that. And that's one comment that always goes throughout is those signs are pretty much impossible to enforce. So that we can put signs up, but we can't really enforce anything about it. And so they're a real good to have it. I mean, it relies on the people driving there to heed the signs.
Because speaking along those lines too, I've had experience in actually trying to enforce them, and you can't, because if it says business only, and they don't go in the business that's right there, it's irrelevant. And then how do you come up and enforce that? It seems impossible, and I never was able to, unless it was addressed and ordinanced and everything along those lines. So I think it puts the officers in an unenviable position to try to deal with the business owner who is irate because they're saying that it's being violated, and the inability to actually issue a citation that is never going to make it through court, and it's not, there's just no way to make it go through.
And I would say historically also we've kind of gone both ways on this, whether we add signs or not. I mean, as it said, there are some signs there. We've also had discussions in the past of maybe removing said signs because they're unenforceable. So plus that parking is sometimes needed for other things besides businesses too.
One question I have, the residential above, and Eric may be more in tune to this, is the residents that live above, do they have parking? Is there like kind of for some verbal understanding where those people park in those structures right there in the back or whatnot?
Yes, there's parking behind. There's a large parking area behind that building. My specific building, there's assigned parking spots. I can't speak for the corner closet building. I think there's a number of folks there that probably park in these spots. And then, of course, it's not close, but we do have parking just not too far from that, even that's safe during snow removal, right near the splash pad, sort of there. So there are other spots, not necessarily the closest, other than the lot behind.
Actually, going back again to this topic historically, just thinking about this as well, we've actually had studies done, I believe, many years ago about how often those parking lots were full, for example, because there was talks about trying to add more business parking spots to the parking lot across the street on Parkview that the school sometimes uses or other activities use as well. And during that time, I remember there were studies where those parking lots as a whole were rarely ever 100% full. Like, it was extremely rare for them to be 100% full. They're often only like 20% full. So there's lots of parking in the area in general. So.
My opinion to the council is I thought about this a lot. I drove over there and just checked it out, and it was a good summary onto this report of like all the different business parking signs. And a couple things come to my mind is saying like the argument of saying like, well, it's not really enforceable, and I completely agree with that, because how do you know where they went, right? But then it goes to what Ryan says is, well, then why have them at all at any of the spots? So when I think about this, I'm processing this, I'm thinking to myself two different things. One, the precedent's already been set with all our business parking signs around the surrounding shops. And the second thing into that goes to my mind is, having a retail business before myself, is the direct parking spots in front of my business are the ones I'm most sensitive to, of course. And so if the precedent's already been set, and it can deter just even a little bit of traffic from parking in front of the business, I would be in support of continuing the precedent of those three stalls that are really the only ones that are directly in front of the storefront of a business right there in that general area. To me, it seems like we continue the precedent, or we reevaluate, like we just do away with the business parking signs as a whole for reasons that you guys already explained. So to the request, and the current precedent's already been laid, I would be in favor of doing the three business parking signs.
I guess my question would be, why would it have to be all or none? Like in this case, there's ample parking in the area around. I don't see it as, okay, we set the precedent, so we just allow it. Then we're going to have requests everywhere for every parking spot to be, business only. So I mean, if the case is there to make it, I could get on board, but I don't think it's a all or none issue, certainly.
I know back a number of years ago we had some businesses along Parkview request getting more business parking signs there, and we did not go down that path. And part of it was because we were concerned that if you keep setting the precedent, then everybody is going to be asking for them at some point in time, and that whole parking lot becomes business only. And then it's not there. That's not the intended use for that parking lot. It's for the businesses. And there were discussions even about the fact that maybe the businesses then should build their own parking lot. And that's obviously not feasible in this location, but that was kind of discussions we've had in the past. So I'm not personally in favor of adding more business parking spots, just because we also had the precedent of not adding more business parking spots, and I don't want to see that whole parking area become business only parking, because that just narrows the focus of that parking lot too much.
I agree. I'm not in favor of this. Even if, putting parking or business parking signs right in front of a business that I own, other businesses could still use those parking spots. So, I mean, it's just adding in general more business parking, and I think there's ample parking down there. When I go, support those businesses, that parking lot that Ryan referenced is always available. So I think there's plenty of parking for the businesses down there.
I will say also in the past, I was also against, I was actually for the idea of potentially looking at removing all business parking signs because it's unenforceable. So that was kind of maybe something worth reviewing again, but that's just, again, my opinion on it.
Maybe there's a compromise where there's, because it's always an ever shifting, evolving dynamic into it. I do feel like those businesses that are requesting this are active during the day when school hours and stuff like that is. I don't know how council would feel that, there's by the left of Little Rockies on that same street, and then the opposite side there's business parking. Whether we take those down, make them open public, and then we switch those 3 parking spots to the ones in front of the retail.
I think other businesses could have, some concerns with that, and we'd be back right here when they request their parking signs back.
I guess I'm never going to be in favor of passing an unenforceable rule. I don't think that does anybody any good. I don't think it does anybody a service. It puts the business owner who feels that they have the right to request something at that point, and they are calling and saying, hey, I want this enforced, why aren't you doing your job? And it puts the people that have to do the enforcing in that position where they're looking at them and going, what's to say that I didn't park there and go around the corner to Good Works and sit down and meet somebody there? I went to a business, it's business parking only. How are you going to enforce it? And I'm just not a fan of ever putting either side of this conversation in that position. It puts everybody and I would agree that I think that would be something we should review as, do we really need them? I get that over at the Pigs parking lot, they can do that all they want. It's private property held open to the public. They can make any rules they want over there. It's not public property. And those parking stalls along Parkview are public parking. So to try to make them semi-reserved, that's not enforceable. I don't think I'll ever be a fan of that.
Do we still have the business-only parking on the south side of the street on College? Is that the right direction?
Yes. There are, I believe, 5 spots.
Yeah, all along College. Okay. Is there a reason why we have those if those aren't if they're not really enforceable?
There are a lot of business-only parking signs in that area. And I would, had I been here long enough ago, I would have said no at the onset of it from the law enforcement side of it. As far as enforcement, it is, unless somebody says, yeah, I'm just parking my car to go for a walk, I'm not going to entertain any businesses, well, then we can enforce it. That's going to not happen.
So I lived there for 4 years, and I had a business underneath, right where I lived, on College, right there. So I understand Jessica's struggle because it isn't as black and white as business versus non-business. There are a lot of people that just randomly park there, and it's right in front of the businesses, and there's only 3. spots there. And so, you know, people are circling around, whatever. And it is a downtown area. And I think they can coach their people to just go into the lots over on Parkview. But did we ever circle back to is it still a public lot between TLC and,
Yes, it is.
is it going to stay that way?
So Rip and I have been talking about that. No, the idea was, in it, it would be to permit that lot, and the idea is to try to help the folks that live upstairs that are residents
Yeah.
to have that lot, and not as much just business only.
Got it.
So should that go through, I could see, okay, we don't need these business only signs anymore because
Right.
everybody that lives there will have a place ideally.
Yeah.
But these are talks that started like 4 months ago. So
No, I was just wondering because if they're needing to, I mean, obviously, they're needing to train or coach their customers on where to park. I just know it's very frustrating for customers and for business owners, but I'm not saying there's a way to enforce. I know that somebody tried to enforce business only to one of Eric's tenants the other night, and she reached out, and I was like, oh, they can't enforce. I mean, even Chief said, like, she rents and that's business, and you know there's no way to enforce anything. So I don't know if there's any other ideas, but so the answer is just kind of no, right? There's no options.
Well, parking's always, I'd say, speeding and parking are the two most contentious issues that face, I think, any police department, anywhere, not just here, anywhere. And right now, I think throwing, it's just trying to placate or to address the needs of one business with something that's just going to end up creating more problems for both sides. It doesn't help when that person says, well, they didn't come in my business. And this almost feels like it's a semi-reserved spot for their business when you put that up. And it's not. I can park there and go in any business. I can walk right around the corner and go straight down and go into Cindy's and get lunch.
Well, I don't think that's the concern right now. I think it's like a lot of people who live in the area. I mean, even the housing neighbors, they have people that come and go all day long, and they'll park right in front of the businesses. And that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's either just one issue. You can go to any business and park anywhere you want. But there are a lot of people that park there as well because it's on the Ice Age Trail and they'll hike it. So there's a lot more than just what this one concern. Like there's a lot going on down there. I'm just asking, are there any other options to be able to make that more appeasable to the customers and the businesses down there?
I was just gonna say that, you know, even if those 3 spots are parked in, I mean, you still have a lot of parking within a block or less of distance to those spots. There's a lot of available parking there, so it's not like all the parking is taken all the time. So there should be plenty of space for customers to be able to park and walk a very short distance to get into the business.
And at the end of the day, it is a public street with public parking. And we keep trying to get people to come to this community and go to our businesses and to say, like the Ice Age Trail. Well, one of the things that was when we started promoting the Ice Age Trail was we want people to come in from out of town and park and get on the Ice Age Trail. And they're hopefully going to eat at our restaurants and they're going to stop in our shops. And it was all part of that development of the community. So it is, at the end of the day, public parking.
I'm not debating that. I asked, is there any other ideas that we could do to help small businesses to continue to grow and be there? Because God knows we don't want anything vacant. So I'm not saying we have to do what Jessica says. I'm just saying, is there any out of the box ideas?
So I might have one, and I'll refer to the officers, Ken, Chief. I don't know if this is good or bad, but hour-long parking in certain spots. I don't know.
I was going to suggest that as an option. I'm not a strong fan of that, just because if we get a complaint and we're tied up, maybe we're not getting there. And is the sheriff's office going to handle a parking complaint? Maybe. You know, we had that passed last summer, I believe, with Beverage Mart. with a 20-minute parking. That's a tough one to enforce too, unless they're doing a quick in and out. Sometimes we can't contact the owner. Then it's a little bit easier. Yeah, here's your ticket, but then the vehicle still remains parked there. That would be probably the only better option, I guess, instead of just saying business only. It's a little easier to enforce than business only, but at the same time, it's still challenging if we only have one officer on, or if there's two officers on, they're on a complaint, they can't address it. Since it's not a high priority call, it's going to get kind of stacked to the bottom. But that is another option.
And then at that point, if you go, do you just do the whole street as 1 hour parking, and then, like you said, it's a low priority, and then are they going to go down and chalk tires and come back and check? And how, you know, like you said, when we have one officer to control the entire city. I know that we're not a big city, but I wouldn't want to be the only person in charge of just patrolling the city by myself, and then have someone that's downtown complaining, saying we're not doing our job because we're not coming and chalking tires and checking them for hourly parking violations.
But isn't there a priority? Isn't there a priority though? I'm not saying that you're gonna get every single person violating that, but isn't it a good, like when I pull up and there's a parking, I'm downtown Madison or anywhere, like it tells me 20-minute parking. I got an hour parking. That's in my head, or I'm paying for parking. Like I'm aware of that because now I know that's there. I'm not saying that's the idea, but I don't think it's a bad idea to do some kind of time frame. And I'm not saying that you have to, our officers need to be tied down doing that. I'm just saying, can we think outside the box for these small business owners in a small town on side streets? Yes, there's other parking, but there are a lot of times that parking is all taken up and it gets very, very busy. So I'm just letting you know.
I guess I have a quick. I'm not really sure how the business parking only thing is, having it not there is hurting the businesses. If it's so full, it seems to me that would indicate that there's a lot of people walking around downtown at the businesses, which is what we want. I don't know how one supports the other, and to bring Madison into it, Madison has an entire parking enforcement authority.
What I was saying is that it gives me an idea of being able to say, this is a 1 hour parking spot. This is a 20-hour parking spot. It lets you know this is very busy. I need to get in and out. That's all I'm saying. I wasn't bringing Madison into this. I was bringing in my reflection.
All right, so I mean, I would drive there frequently throughout the day, dropping kids off, picking kids up, and I know it's an absolute mess over there at that time. Like, there's no denying it, but it's 5 to 10 minutes of peak traffic in the morning. I think we're kind of talking a lot about what is in the future when we're talking, if we're looking at this issue specifically. I just don't see it as I've never seen it without an event, without school pickups, without community days, any of that. I've never seen an issue with parking spots available. And I am sensitive to what Derek said about, people are business owners would like that front spot, but I just don't see anything in that area causing enough of a problem to need to do something about it. So, I mean, and that's why I would be in favor of denying this request, but I'm open to others in the future, other ideas that aren't necessarily business only parking.
Is it potential to kick this down to committee for just analysis of a better just overall parking thing? Does that make sense at all? I don't know.
Well, I would think that we would need a motion to deal with this one specifically right now, and then we can bring it up as something object in the future to study, to find a way to do it. Saying no or saying yes this right now isn't going to solve that, and I do agree that in the future we need to have some type of study done that is going to work in the best interest of everybody. I don't think we're solving that now. We have one issue that we need a motion for to deal with right now, and we can always work on that down the road. I don't think it's going to get settled here obviously tonight. So based on that, I would move to deny the request for business parking only signs on College Street.
Second, and then I have one more comment to make, I guess.
We have a motion and a second discussion.
I will say that I'm just trying to find it real quick in my emails, but a number of years ago we actually had, we kind of did a study to some extent as to the parking usage of that parking lot. And the parking lot there, and then parking on Parkview, parking on College, and I think there's looking at areas to different times a day over, like, I think it was a 2-week period or something like that. There was kind of a study done a number of years ago just to see what kind of parking was actually occurring there, because there was the same type of discussion of there are times that parking lot's full and stuff like that. And I can't find the study, but I thought I remember, I think at peak, there about 80-something% of it was full. During the times they checked, which was around school time, it was about 80% full, and typically it was 20% or less full throughout most of the business day. And that was back during discussions we were talking about adding more business parking signs to the parking lot, and across from like where Rockies used to be. And so I do know there's some information already out that exists about that. It also lists how many parking stalls there are, and there's more parking there than you actually realize is there. It's well over 100 stalls, or spots for parking in that area. So just saying there is information out there already that we just would have to dig up to some extent on that. But also that parking lot is actually very, very, very rarely ever full. It's most often pretty empty. School, yes, that's the time when everybody sees it, is when school gets out, school gets in. But even then, it's not 100% full. So.
All right, so we have a motion in a second. We
Thank you.
optionally,
2017.
if you don't want to vote no to this and want to see it go further, we could make a motion to push it to Public Works. Throwing that out there as discussion. So we have a motion in a second. We will now vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
That motion carries. Number 7, discussion and possible action regarding special event permit application received from Junction Pub for the Captain Major Cane event on March 28th, 2026. With us tonight, we have the event organizer, we have the owner of Junction Pub, we also have a neighboring business, if anyone has questions for them. But before, I'm going to ask Jenny to read into record a statement from the owner, the requester of this special event permit.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Jeremy Paulson, and I'm here today to request approval to temporarily close First Lane behind the Junction Pub for a community benefit event in honor of Captain Major Cane. Captain Cane has been a valued member of our community, someone who has served and protected our residents with dedication and heart. Sadly, he is now battling cancer, and we're coming together to support him and his family through this difficult time. Our goal is to host a benefit event to raise funds for Captain Cane's medical expenses and to show him that Milton stands with him. We're proposing holding the event on March 28th, closing First Lane behind the Junction Pub to ensure a safe and accessible area for attendees. The event will include food, raffles, and donation opportunities, all focused on community support and gratitude. We are committed to working with the City of Milton Police Department, Fire Department, and Public Works to ensure proper safety measures, signage, and cleanup plans are in place. The Junction Pub has agreed to coordinate with vendors and local sponsors to make sure everything runs smoothly. This isn't just about raising money, it's about taking care of one of our own. Captain Cane has spent years putting others first, and now it's our turn to give back. I respectfully ask for your approval to close First Lane for this event and for your support in making it a success for Captain Cane and the community he serves so faithfully. Thank you for your time and consideration. And then also included is a petition for temporary street closure that states, "We, the undersigned businesses, acknowledge and support the temporary closure of First Lane for a community benefit event in honor of firefighter Major Cane. This event is intended to show community support and raise funds. We understand there may be minor temporary impacts to access during the event, and we grant our permission for the street closure. Date of event, March 28th. And this is Stacy Hardenstein from the Beverage Mart, Mike Frederick from Frederick's Supper Club, Jeff Aston from Paul Revere's Pizza."
Thank you, Jenny. So I'll turn it over to the council for discussion. And I will just remind you, the reason that it's on this agenda and not consent is because of the road closure. And then also, this request is within the 30-day typical that we request. So.
Just a quick question for the event organizers. Is the plan to have first shut down from 5 p.m. on the 27th to 7 a.m. on the 29th for the event? Can you come up here, please, sir? Thank you.
Just say your name and your address and smile.
Jeremy Paulson, 1327 Crestline, Milton. I just put that on there of what could happen if we could set up on Friday and tear it down on Sunday, which I know that's probably not going to happen. If we could set up Sunday morning around 7 a.m. and then tear down after the event, because we're going to have a tent back there for the people to be in it due to weather permitting. I'm not sure if it's going to be 70 like it is this Saturday or if it's going to be 30, you know. I just need to communicate with them if it's a possibility to shut it down around 7 to build the tent, and then we will tear down an hour prior of the event being held.
Jeremy, just to clarify, you said 7 a.m. Sunday. Did you mean 7 a.m.
Saturday, yeah, that's what I meant.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was my concern, is if we were gonna have that shut down. I mean, I'm full support of this, but to have the first line shut down that long for the one
So
event.
it's just going to be from the Junction Pub's dumpsters on the other side of Fredericks to Paul Revere's there.
So my only concern when I was reading through this was the other businesses affected. So thank you to the other businesses that have signed and agreed to that petition. And therefore I make a motion to approve the the special event permit from Junction Pub for the Captain Major Kane event on March 28th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. However, we want to have some clarity on when we're going
Yeah,
to set up and
if
tear
it,
down.
so the permit was submitted this way, so in the motion, if we could clarify what timeframes we're approving, if we're approving the, a permit as application as submitted, or if there was a change in the, street closure timeframe.
I amend my motion for the street closure to begin at 7 a.m. on March 28th and open at 6 p.m. on March 28th.
We move to 6 a.m.
Are we able to move it to 6 a.m. on Saturday and then tear down an hour after the event?
B. The event says it ends at 5 p.m.?
Yeah.
Is that true? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So it could be from 6 to 6.
I amend my motion for the second time for the street closure to begin at 6 a.m. on March 28th and open 6 p.m. on March 28th.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Number 8, discussion and possible action regarding the special event permit application received from Milton Historical Society for the Civil War Living History Days on May 15th through 17th, 2026. Similar to the last request, this is before you, council, because of the road closure. Any discussion or?
Yeah, I have a
motion?
question. Does the DOT need to be involved at all for this road closure or no?
Excuse me, the permit is included for the DOT detour permit, and that includes the road closure map.
Sorry, I missed that one. Thank you.
I make a motion to approve the special event permit application from the Milton Historical Society for Civil War Living History Days on May 15th to 17th, 2026.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? One abstention. That motion carries. Number 9, discussion and possible action regarding the Residential Exterior Improvement Program grant request.
City of Milton established the Residential Exterior Improvement Program in 2019. $50,000 is allocated towards the program using TIF funds. For 2026, 6 eligible applications and 1 ineligible application were received by the deadline for initial review. 6 eligible grant applications were reviewed by the Community Development Authority. The CDA presented three options, or excuse me, one option for the council to consider. The CDA recommends that all six be funded. However, that exceeds the $50,000 funding amount. The total amount of eligible applications in 2026 is 54,575. The CDA is requesting that Common Council authorize the use of an additional $4,575 for the grants. Fiscal impact, the program is budgeted through TID 7 and 10 funds, both of which are funded and able to incur the additional $4,575 that is being requested. Recommended motion is to approve the residential exterior improvement program grants awards in the amounts following, pending any outstanding charges due to the city of Milton. For 1012 West Sunset for $7,000, 528 East Madison Avenue for $10,000, 633 Parkview Drive for $7,575, 125 West Madison Avenue for $10,000, 423 Golden Lane for $10,000, and 31 Morgan Street for $10,000. And to deny the application from 316 East High Street because the assessed value of the property exceeds the 125% residential average stated in the grant guidelines.
Thank you, Paul. Any questions for Paul or discussion?
Yeah, I have some fairly large concerns about this. Not in, regards to the program itself. I am a lead risk assessor, so when I read things about old homes, I'm thinking about lead. Multiple of these projects, the contractors are not lead certified. So in good conscience, I cannot support something which city funds could be allowed to do something illegal or further poison a child or an adult. So 633 Parkview, their contractor is lead certified. 1012 West Sunset, the high bid contractor is certified, the low bid contractor is not. 125 West Madison, neither contractors are certified. 528 East Madison, neither are certified. 423 Golden, that's an after 1978 home that was built in 1988, so that is exempt. And then 31 Morgan Street, neither are certified.
With our application stuff, we have nowhere in there do we state that they actually have to have a lead certified contractor.
No.
Yeah. So I'm not sure that's really something we can all of a sudden now start to say that they have to have a lead certified company to be approved.
State law would say that. So I don't think the city should be using funds to, fund projects that are against state law. So, and to give some guidance, 20 square feet of the exterior of a structure, if more than 20 square feet are disturbed, then that falls under this rule.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask, is if it's not necessarily interior work, like if it's a deck or a porch or something like that, because it's within 20 feet of the interior, is that what you said?
Nope, if they're disturbing more than 20 square feet of the exterior of a structure, residential or childcare center, then that falls under the rule.
20 square feet of what material? I mean, if we're looking at, let me finish, the trim around the window that's been painted, I don't know if that's going to hit that 20 square feet as opposed to the fiber cement siding that's coming off of a house that we typically will contain things like asbestos. But we've looked at this. I didn't read them this obviously as closely as you did. How do we know that those houses are going to have more than 20 square feet of work done to an exterior that may contain lead paint?
Yeah, that would be on them to, confirm. So these are, when I was looking at it initially, reading about the projects. So if they're removing siding, obviously that is going to be something. If they're renovating a porch, that's going to be something. So that could be, a stipulation that we add to this, project or program, is that they confirm, either their contract will be certified at time of work being done, or they fall under those amounts.
What's the danger if they're on the outside of the house and not on the inside of contamination?
Poisoning a child, I think, would be our biggest concern. Lead remains, it's not going to decompose, so dust being tracked around the home, in the home, contamination of soils, it going airborne, anything like that.
Just curious, we've talked about this a lot, because of some of my projects. Can a homeowner, could they get certified to being in charge of the project to ensure that they follow the rules? Where we still could push this back and say, hey, we recommend that you do the measurements, make sure you're following state law, you don't break any laws involving when you speed to the store to go pick up materials to work on this, and also take the class otherwise and make sure your contractor, I mean, is that possible or is that dumb to put that back on a homeowner?
No, I mean, not a bad idea, but the contractor and company doing the work have to be certified. Individuals doing work on their own home, which can't be done for this program, is exempt.
Thank you.
So what I'm trying to wrap my mind around is we've had a exterior grant program for a number of years, and so what you're suggesting is that we've been in violation of state law for a long time.
I am not insinuating that by any means. I don't know. So what I don't know, I don't know. Make that very clear. I don't know. But now that we do know, I think we have to take it into consideration.
Typically, Derek, we rely on the contractor to follow all laws when we do grant these projects, and the homeowner to follow the laws. We expect people to follow laws. Unfortunately, sometimes they don't. That's why we've got this gentleman sitting right there.
So we could pass this and recommend that you speak with your contractors and ensure that they do the training, because I did look into that, and that is training that a contractor can do. Takes a little bit of time, a little bit of money, but I think given the contract, I think it would be worth their time. And then, I don't know, we're taking ownership of it. I don't know that we need to, if we're just, please follow state law.
Yeah, I can go back to what Ryan said, to be this far in the process and go through the whole process that we as a city put out there, and then to deny at this point and the precedent's laid. But I respect exactly what Molly's saying. I appreciate her care and concern. But then to what Mayor is saying is like saying, hey, it's approved, but hey, by the way, stay in the legal framework of the law and state statutes as well.
I have a question for you, Mark, please. Legally speaking, I'm not going to try to be an attorney. That's why you're here. How much liability does the city incur if we don't put some verbiage in there, or if we don't ensure that every contractor that because you can't spit without hitting an old house in Milton, that every single contractor that we approve a grant for meets this requirement? What's the liability that we realistically incur?
Well, I guess, first of all, this is the first I've heard of this, so I haven't researched it, obviously, for this particular issue. But just in general, the city issues permits, just a general permit. They issue a general building permit. That's what they issue. And the building inspector makes sure that they follow the building code, right? And then if there's a zoning issue, it's the zoning administrator makes sure they follow that. And that's really where, and if it's an issue where it requires some judgment as to whether or not something is okay or is not, the city doesn't have any liability on a judgment call. It has to be pretty much black and white in terms of it's this way or that way. And most often you find it in a code. So in this situation, I think, as Paul is indicating, when this is, of course, a permit. This is not, the city's not issuing a permit for this action here. It's just indicating whether or not it's going to make funds available for the work. All right. And, I understand the concern, and certainly that you can take that into account. You may want to, take that into account because if you want, but as indicated, they're always required to follow the law. And then it's the issuing of the permits that addresses that, not necessarily the, for instance, if they get a mortgage at a bank, that doesn't cover that. They say, well, we'll give you a mortgage to build the house, and then you need to work and get your permits for that. So I don't think that the city would have any liability in this case, and I don't know that that's the concern really here from what I'm hearing. It's really more of a concern about impact it might have on homeowners or others. So that's a long way of saying that I don't think that the city would have any liability if it would make these grants available. It would be based on other actions.
I'm not sure is that it's fair to go ahead and deny based off of at this point in stage without on something that they weren't made aware of in the first place as far as our application goes. I think it may be worthwhile to maybe relook at our application. We can put some language in on that. But on that note, I'm making a motion to approve the residential exterior improvement grant applications for 1012 West Sunset Drive, 528 East Madison Avenue, 633 Parkview Drive, 125 West Madison Avenue, 423 Golden Lane, and 31 Morgan Street, and deny the request for 316 East High Street because the assessed value of the property exceeds the 125% residential average stated in the grant guidelines.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I have a quick question. To make sure, Miley does bring up a good point, and I understand Ryan's point as well, is when we officially approve this, is there are they told hey, when you do this, you still have to follow state laws and get the right permits and everything? That is communicated to them, or is it just assumed?
We require them to have building permits. Some of these projects, if it's just painting, obviously you don't need a building permit. So, in that building permit process, I believe you're signing that you are following the laws. However, as Molly says, that doesn't always occur.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? We'll vote then. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Nay.
That motion carries. Number 10, discussion and possible action regarding 2026 utility and street improvements bid award amendment.
Excuse me. So the project was awarded on March 3rd. There was an error in the award amount for the project. The alternate amount of $102,600 was not included in the amount of the award. The actual award amount with the alternates would be $3,802,575.25. The intent of staff was to award the alternate at the last meeting. So the recommendation here is to award the project again with the total amount listed correctly.
Any discussion or questions from Mark?
Is this still the low bid?
Yes, this is still the low bid.
These two, to be specific, these two alternates that we are adding is the sidewalk and stairs replacement on Madison Avenue at Northside Drive, making that ADA compliant, and then a generator for one of our lift stations in another location.
Yeah, the generator at Crossroads Industrial Park will receive a backup generator. Now with the additional users, customers out there, and some of them are sending a lot more flow through that station, that one would benefit from having backup power to provide service 24/7 in the event of power outage.
All right, I'd make a motion to approve the 2026 utility and street improvements bid award amendment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Number 11, presentation of annual municipal separate storm sewers MS4 permit.
Annually, we have to prepare a report for the DNR that indicates that we are in conformance with our DNR permit for our storm sewer system. This is just a public presentation here at the meeting tonight. It's also available on the website. There's no action required. Again, just other than to present this to the public. If anyone has questions, I'd gladly answer them.
So you're not gonna present all 171 pages, are you?
I was going to start reading as soon as we're ready.
Please.
They make y'all do this every year?
Anyone want to make a motion? Any other discussion? All right.
Good work.
Thanks, Mark. Number 12, general items, committee reports.
Historic Preservation met right before this meeting, and we will be doing a cemetery workshop to kind of continue our process of going through the gravestones there and making sure that the records are accurate, and that will be on May 13th, starting at 4:30 and going till 7. At least that's what we decided on tonight.
Thank you.
Parks met Monday night. Had a decently full agenda. So we viewed the community house plan and made some recommendations to get the rendering back for that. Discussed data for the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. So thankfully we can use the data gathered for our general comp plan to work on that. Then we talked about some other things. The Arbor Day celebration is proposed to be after the parks meeting on April 20th and a dog park cleanup on April 25th. So please feel free to join us for either of those. Would love to see you there. So yeah, that's what parks discussed.
Thanks, Molly. Did anyone else have a report?
You want to do the CDA report?
Charlotte would like to do the CDA report.
I'll do it.
Did we have a meeting since then?
No, we had the council the day before that last CDA meeting. We have CDA on Wednesday.
Oh, go for it.
CDA met the day after last council meeting, and we, if that's correct, if my timeline might, yeah. And we just discussed the facade grants that we approved tonight.
Thank you.
Good job.
Okay.
You mean on Wednesdays.
All right. Well, moving on. Staff reports.
What was it?
You meet on Wednesdays.
Go ahead, Mark.
No, that's actually.
The Stearns Road, John Paul Road, utility construction work, that project has started here even with the weather we had last week. They did start some tree removal and a little bit of underground utility installation. Regarding our stormwater MS4, we were audited in 2025, and I don't believe I've mentioned this before, but we did receive our letter in January. There was no notice of violations. Everything was good from the DNR's eyes after their audit. They did an office audit and a field audit of us, so that was good news.
Paul.
Just a quick note, Kelsey is in the midst of helping out with the city's audit. The audit's occurring, started yesterday, today, and will conclude hopefully tomorrow. She's been doing a great job there. We did have a public meeting the Monday before last, updating folks on the comprehensive plan. Good presentation, good turnout from Council and Plan Commission. Thank you for coming, for those who did. Appreciate that. And just doing with development and working with developers on the last couple of projects and getting them started for the construction year this year. Things that have already been approved and things that people are looking at in the future. And that should take care of it.
I forgot about the meeting tomorrow. Can you mention it?
I'd rather not.
Okay.
It's not posted. Did it? Okay. Did you post that? Yeah.
Thanks, Paul. Jenny.
Just a few updates on the spring election. Absentee ballot requests on file were sent out for the spring election. They were mailed yesterday, and then in-person absentee voting at Milton Senior Living was completed the last 2 days. Then in-person absentee voting at City Hall starts on Tuesday and then goes through Friday, April 3rd, and we will be here on April 3rd till 5 p.m. on Friday. And just as an update with our liquor license renewal, I wanted to share this because I was pretty excited about it, is we started about last year of sending emails out with links with all the liquor license renewal forms. So that is something different. We used to send packets to every liquor license owner, and that I was a little nervous on how that would go over. And I just want to say it's been absolutely amazing because we have gotten people who already within the first 2 days after sending it, asking questions, getting the information. We still have them here. We still have packets available here that I am more than happy to drop off to them at their locations, or they can come in. But I just wanted to let you know it was pretty amazing because we've already received one full application, which again, since I've been here, we haven't had that. So, and we've actually gotten really good feedback from one person in general that was just very excited about that. Because they are fillable forms too, so they don't have to handwrite everything.
All right, thank you. And Chief.
All should have received our annual report that was pushed out today. Sorry, Mark, I didn't include you, but it's available on the city website and it was pushed out on Facebook. Hiring update. We have one in the hopper that should be joining next month, mid next month. And we kicked off another process due to some speed bumps incurred in the backgrounds on several applicants. So we have one more offer that we extended to an applicant that was on our eligibility list for this last round that we are waiting to hear back on that. That applicant would need the academy, which wouldn't start until fall. So that officer wouldn't come on board until mid-December. So hopefully we can incur a lateral, and I've already got a couple in the hopper for this next process. So hopefully we'll have some success with that. Another good note though, Officer Joe Martirano just completed his last step of field training yesterday. So he is now certified for solo patrol, and he will be enjoying the nightlife on third shift starting Saturday night. Friday night with the 12, a couple of those coming up. Also, just recently we lost our flagpole out front, so Paul Smith with Public Works is working on getting some quotes for the replacement of that one. I was surprised we didn't lose it on Thursday when the high winds were up, but lost it during the snowstorm. So other than that, nothing further from the PD side.
All right, thank you. See, team building exercise. So for this one, what game show do you think you could win? Game show. So not reality TV, so don't be doing Bachelor or Bachelorette. Game show.
The Price is Right.
Family Feud.
I'm gonna jump on the Price is Right bandwagon.
Wheel of Fortune.
Does it have to be a current, or could it have been a past game show?
Go past. Let's see what you can dig up.
Hollywood Squares.
Press your luck.
I'll do Family Feud. That's a good one.
What's my line?
I was gonna say Price is Right when you first asked the question, so I'll stick with that.
I'm glad I looked it up because supermarket sweep. Do you remember that one? I feel like I'd be so good at that. I spend my life in grocery stores right now.
And I'm also Price is Right. And I'm not just copying because I don't think I could guess the prices of stuff. I just want to play all those games because I think I could dominate at the games if I just could get to that part.
Is it the dinging?
I don't know how to answer that. All right. I didn't miss anybody, did I? We're good. We're good. All right, our next meeting date,
See, no.
April 8th.
Jenny didn't go.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. It was Jenny's question, too. I am so sorry.
Does that mean I don't have to go for it since
You
I
go.
came up with it?
Now I feel terrible.
No?
You get to pick next week, too, or next meeting.
I'm just gonna go with the easy one. It's Price is Right since I feel like since I was 5 years old, I have watched that show and just that's pretty. It's an amazing show.
Anyone else? Okay, we got it right. Next meeting date, April 8th, 2026. Motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for accommodating tonight.